You want some water? I can get you some.
No, don't give me this, but it's, what's this, 10, but it's done now.
Okay.
I have a minute.
You can trot down and get a drink out of the fountain.
Trot, that's a good verb. I'd like to see you trot.
No? You good? You good?
Excellent. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Kate Muzzy. Thank you so much for taking part in our MDIHS Senior Exhibition Celebration. We're so pleased to have Connor Crandall here to share his, to be presenting and also so that we can gain insight from his process. So after the presentation, we're going to open up for questions from the panelists at first and then from the audience members as a whole. And then we're going to ask everybody to wait outside while the panelists deliberate. And after this, we're going to ask Connor to come back inside and we'll give him feedback on your senior exhibition presentation and your process. So thank you all for being here and being awesome audience members. Could everyone make sure their cell phones are off if you have those on? Great. Thank you so much. So without further ado, here's Connor Crandall.
Well, that's my name. This is my senior exhibition on stage tonight. So, I got involved in theater in 2010 with the Acadia Community Theater in doing their winter show of A Miracle on 34th Street at the Neighborhood House in Northeast Harbor. I was bodily dragged there by my parents because up to that point I hadn't done anything outside of home and school. But it grew into something that is my favorite thing now. And that's due to a number of things, including the fact that there's a community of people that think the way I do and that I can solve practical problems in a setting that I'm comfortable with and it's mentally stimulating, etc. And I credit that with a lot of the bigger things that they've been able to do since then. So I got involved with theater tech, and tech means anything that's involved with theater that's not acting or directing, and that includes building the set, designing the sound if there is any, designing where the lights are, running the show, which is bring the lights up and down at certain points, makeup, costumes, and the top picture is a light board that everyone who's involved in the theater has to deal with, and that's the control panel for all the lights in the house. And it's very complicated. That's what I do. So, over my time in high school, I have participated in all 4 years of tech, which amounts to 16 shows, plus 2 I did with the Acadia Community Theater. One was Miracle on 34th Street, as I said, and the second one was It's a Wonderful Life, I think. And those are all the playbills for the ones I've done here, besides one, which is the Reimer the Villain, which would be in between these. It's been fun. So for each of these, I helped construct the set, and for 2 of them, which are the Final Curtain of the Gilded Lily and the Dancers, those are 2 that I had designed designed sets for already, under the guidance of a staff of the people that worked at the theater and the director. And I appeared with Gilbert as well. So this is my experience with this field. To design the 2 shows I use a program called Google SketchUp, which is a 3D modeling tool that's free and I like it a lot. I've used it since 6th or 7th grade to just play around, but it's not until this point that I used it for anything really productive. And it's great because it stops me from, it lets me do something besides build one of these, which is the traditional sort of wooden or cardboard model that set designers usually had. Well, they had to make it for 3D modeling on a computer, but it allows a director to visualize a space in it gives a better sense of what the final set's going to look like than drawings. But those are also important. So this is the set that I modeled this. I didn't design it. I modeled someone else modeled the set for Mousetrap, which is a play that's happening next week. So this is a little bit of a sneak peek. It's not going to look exactly like this, but this is what I made going off of the design. So this is the kind of thing that I've done. So the question arises, and why do the project? And it's because I want to explore certain aspects of set design that I haven't previously. The 2 that I'm mainly interested in are the process that professional designers have to go through in a setting where they make money, and a deeper understanding of what the artistic theory behind it all is, which I sort of learned over this process. And it means a more in-depth design that I can do with a greater amount of time than, say, a week, which is what usually happens. So the essential question turned out to be this, but it was at first, how does set design bring together my interests and render them into a productive professional discipline? But I found I was not really answering that question. So I changed it to, how will independently designing set inform me of my own creative process? So the actual project I did was to design a set for a play on the Higgins and Moss Theater, which is our theater here at the high school. And the first thing I had to do was design the play I was going to do. And I went to Mr. Rush, who is the theater director here, and he suggested a play that he had been considering, but would have had to cut, and it wouldn't have been proper. So he suggested a play called Eurydice by Sarah Rule, and the set suggestions in the script were extremely sparse. These are literally what they said in the first page. So the set contains a raining elevator, a water pump, some rusty exposed pipes, an abstracted river of forgetfulness, and an old-fashioned glow-in-the-dark globe. These 5 lines are in comparison to something, again, from Mousetrap. This exists in the back of the Mousetrap script, which is an entire diagram of everything that you need, including a prop list, and it's very specific, and it's what I was used to, I guess, but in this script there was 5 lines, and that's all I really had to go on as far as the author's suggestions for what the space should look like. So the synopsis of the play is important for you people. So Orpheus is, in Greek mythology, Eurydice's wife. Orpheus was an extremely talented musician who had these great powers of he could charm people with his music. He and Eurydice get married, and then on their wedding day, she gets bitten by a cobra in the ankle, and she dies. So he plays such sad music that the gods take pity on him and allow him to bring her back from the underworld. But at the last second, he's told that to bring her back, he can't look back at her until they're both out. But at the last second, as he steps out of the entrance, she's still there, and he looks back, and he loses her. And that's the Greek legend. So this play is a more modern take on that, and from her perspective. So they get married in the play. Then she's led into a nasty, interesting man's apartment. She falls down the stairs and then is a set of 5 very important words, which are there is no set change, which means that from a transition from Earth to the underworld, where the rest of the play takes place, there can be no changes of the set on the stage, which was something that I sort of struggled with in early periods, but fueled the creative process in another way. She meets her father in the underworld, and he builds her a room out of string. And the symbolism here is that there's no rooms in hell in the underworld, so to keep her from forgetting her life on Earth, he builds her a space where that can't happen. Eventually, Orpheus searches from her from Earth. He finds out where she is. He plays set music sad enough so that he can go down, and then he loses her. Yes, that's in the legend. So, researched some things, and I found 2 books that very conveniently touched on exactly what I wanted to explore. So, Stage Scenery and Lighting was focused on the artistic theory behind designing a set, and then Scene Technology, which is another book that I found, detailed really more of the practical process of making up drawings and creating something that would work. I also talked to Peter Miller and Greg Ruchart, which are the adults who run the tech department here at the high school, and they also gave me some suggestions as I went through this. So, beginning of the process, I used SketchUp to start puking ideas on the screen because it was a more changeable sort of format than putting it on paper for me. I felt like I could play around with it more. And several decisions had to be made over the course of this sort of trial and error process. There were several failed concepts that made it onto paper, some of them, but they were all scrapped eventually. This is one of them, the models. It's very basic. At this point, I realized it wasn't going to work for thematic purposes, for example. This is another one that I scrapped pretty swiftly. This is when I was still considering having the set be changeable instead of a unit set, which means that it just stays in one place and there's no changes in between scenes, which is important for the whole. There's no set change to the underworld, certainly. So these are some of the sketches that those early attempts birthed. But at some point I realized that even if I wasn't sure on what the whole thing was going to look like, I could plan out certain aspects that I knew were going to be there. So this is the first drawing that actually made it into the final design, and it's basically unchanged. This is the elevator, which she opens. Eurydice walks. She arrives in the underworld from the elevator. At the top is the apartment where she falls down. So, and this is measurements and stuff. This is all. The next bit was the river of forgetfulness that I had to make, and to keep with the theme there of like dirty industrial sort of broken machinery, I decided to come out of a sewage outflow pipe, and across the page there's my notes, and this is some more sketches of things that I took some aspects from, but I trashed others. For instance, this is where Orpheus would search for her from Earth, but I got rid of the dock imagery. Anyway, this is more. This is a plaza that comes down from the elevator. This is a bird's eye view. And so I came eventually to a working model. Okay. Okay. So this is the working model that I had about halfway through the process in SketchUp. This is like the untextured sort of basic structure of everything that I made. The river comes out and it stops and it goes across the stage. That little man is for scale. Everything here is as high as it would be in real life, which is the great thing about SketchUp because I can take measuring tape and measure exactly how tall that is, and it says on the bottom there it's 2 feet tall. So that's the thing I had. I do not have a mentor at this point, and now I have a mentor. My mentor is named Joe Lewis. He is a mountain designer High School alum and currently works as an electrician and the tech director for the Ellsworth High School drama department for creative fulfillment. And at our first meeting, he stressed the idea of the set as a separate character that changes with the mood of the play and acts as like acts as a the metaphor he uses like an array of mirrors that focuses the acting of the people on the stage and complements it. So from this meeting, I changed very many things. I decided on the overall character of the set, what it would be, what the tone of everything was from his sort of tutelage. And another thing he stressed was to make it so it would actually work. So there was no real room in the first model for human beings to move around in it. So we did that. He suggested I go through the script again and write out all of the stage directions so I would know where people moved and how and how the set should be built to accommodate that. And I removed the glass, which means, alright, so in these blue bits in the windows, that's glass. I modeled glass into the set. You can't have glass in the set because the light's reflected into the eyes of the audience and set people's hair on fire. So, that sort of piece reflects the fact that there were a lot of things that I didn't think about that were extremely important in building the thing. I say glass doesn't belong. I say you can't have it. So that's just one of the things that it's just simple things that I was unaware of. For example, another thing is having the set built so nobody can see behind it, which is something else I changed. So by the second meeting, I had finished the character of it, and the last meeting focused on functional issues. He suggested Joe Lewis and the book Stage Technology detailed to make a set, to give a set to a director, you have to have a couple things. From the book, those things are a top-down view of the set on the stage and then a view from the front as it will look. Those two things plus a model would be my final product for the project. So this is a picture of a brick. And the character I chose for the set would be is a ruined sort of brickwork type thing that actually, you know what, for this I'll show you the final set that I've done. This is it. This is what I have. The flats are made of they're styled to be sort of broken down brick walls, which I felt with the aid of lighting and stuff could suggest either the earth like a warmer sort of place, and then the character of the flats could suggest the underworld as that transition happened. So yeah, okay. So this is a diagram of bricks that I looked at, and I can tell you without looking at it that a brick is 2 5/8 inches along, 7 5/8 inches deep, and 2 1/4 tall. Because everything on that model that I showed you, all of those 90-degree crenellations, I guess, are multiples of that. They all have to fit in those dimensions. So these are my flat diagrams that I had to make. Every sort of I drew some of them backwards, which I found out. So some of them say back and some of them say front. All of these numbers are multiples of the dimensions of the brick, basically. So that was the left side of the stage, as you see from the audience. This is the right side of the stage. All of this it was great. So that was my final product. Everything that a tech director and a director would need to start building the set. And what I think I accomplished was that I effectively built a world, which is what the stage scenery and lighting book sort of was about, is build a place where the audience can suspend their disbelief, and they can believe in what's going on stage. And to that effect, they can't be. I had a conversation with Joe about things like there's coffee pots on stage flashing the 12 midnight, and clocks that don't move, water sinks that don't actually turn, like anything that you could, any tiny thing that could be noticed could possibly detract from the reality of the universe, which is something that I think I worked a long time on, trying to get this to have all the details. And throughout the whole thing, I learned how to take a concept from my head and present it to others in a way that would be conceivable to them, which is an incredibly important skill for someone who's designing something. And this is the top down that I had. These are to scale. This is one. Why is this happening? And then this is the front that I drew. Front view perspective. It's very hard. Alright, so the future for this, it's not showing up. Alright. Well, the slides aren't appearing, but the future for yeah, no. Anyway, I'll just do it. The future for me, for this whole thing is that I'm working at the Acadia Repertory Theater this summer as an intern, which they were very kind to take me in again. I worked there a little bit last summer. I desperately want to continue doing this as long as I can because it's an outlet for everything that school and home does not provide, because it's really the only thing I do. And from conversations with Joe Lewis, I realized the adaptability of the set of skills that I have, and they can be adapted for interior, exterior design, design of movie sets, shows, expos, like designs for someone's stall at a gala event, even if they can pay you to do that. So yeah, it's a neat thing. So I know I'm over time already. I would like to thank 4 people. First one, Christine Collins, who was my senior arts teacher at Liberty People's Collins. Second was Casey Rush, who gave me the script. I love Mr. Rush. Third was Joe Lewis, who's not here today, but he sends his apologies. I love Joe Lewis. And fourth is Peter Miller and Gray Bruchart, who have been the adults who have been there for 4 years of high school and become a major facet of it. And please trust me that my works cited slide is real. It's right there. Got a lot of stuff on it. So that's my thing.
Questions from the family? I have a question. Are you considering going on with your schooling? Ceramic design, or?
I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to University of Maine at Farmington as an undecided, and I hope to do theater stuff there, but I don't know if it's a subject, an academic subject that I want to pursue further. I'm not sure yet. I will make that decision as the bridge comes closer.
That's a very mature response. But what a nice thing to have. You could enter into any community and immediately find your community within a bigger community. So that's great.
Let me open it up to questions from the audience.
What?
Oh, and now I'm changing my question to why didn't you thank your mother? No, my real question is, do you think that Mr. Rush or somebody may actually get to use are you going to provide it to the drama department here for potential use in the future?
That is something I could do, but one of the things I had to break myself free of is the idea that I had to build what I was making. And there were several times where I was like, I can't do that, it's far too, I don't know, build, it's ridiculous. But working without a director and working without the onus of actually having to construct a thing, was great because it let me be more creative about what I did. Yes.
Connor, did you keep any kind of reflective notes, or was it all up here, as you went through this whole process?
Yep, there are 3 of them in here somewhere. But, and also another thing, touching on that, is that I have all of those drawings and several more that I didn't think were good enough or relevant. And I have all those, and those are in hard copy, and I can keep those and use them in other sort of places I want to do something like this in, which is great. Joe didn't do that, and that was something he talked to me about, was to keep all your